So these are the 5 supplements that actually work with ADHD. The very first one, I find that this is very effective if you are an adult with ADHD, especially if you're 40 or above. I will usually test people and see if there's deficiencies in such as things as like serine levels. Serine is an important amino acid and is something that I find that tends to be deficient in adults with ADHD when they do get older and start depleting. And that actually impacts your memory and your focus and your cognitive functionality. So typically when I'll see that, I'll add something like phosphatidylserine. And when you use it correctly, when you find that you're deficient, my patients and clients will find that it is very effective in helping with their memory, their focus, because we're using it correctly. The second one is L-theanine. Now, I will say I will use this across the board for young to old people with ADHD because I will always see that there is an issue with things such as like norepinephrine, epinephrine, dopamine, serotonin, usually stress dealing with ADHD. L-theanine is a very powerful amino acid that helps a lot with anxiety, but also it does help really modulate a lot of those different neurotransmitters that people with ADHD tend to have a deficiency in. So I will use this all the time. And my patients and clients find that not only does it help with their stress, but also helps with their focus, as well as just to help them stabilizing their mood throughout the day. And this is something I use probably the most out of all of these. The third supplement that actually works with ADHD, and I use this one even probably the second most, is D-L-phenylalanine. The reason why I use D-L-phenylalanine is because people with ADHD usually have a tendency, for the most part, having low levels of phenylethylamine. Now, phenylethylamine is an excitatory neurotransmitter that is very important for cognition, focus, and it is the beginning pathway of the dopamine neurotransmitter pathway. And so if that tends to be low, it's going to impact all the different neurotransmitters in the dopamine pathway, such as norepinephrine and epinephrine. And so therefore adding something like D-L-phenylalanine, which helps build phenylethylamine, is going to be a very powerful tool. And it's something that is actually one of my favorites that I tend to be depleted in this area. And a lot of people with ADHD, when we do test for this, we'll see that these levels are low, and adding something to D-L-phenylalanine can help a lot with focus and memory significantly. And it does actually work if you are depleted in phenylethylamine. The fourth one, I would say this is probably one of the biggest areas when we're going to go into more vitamins. Vitamins could definitely be a critical role of helping people with ADHD. The problem is people will just try all different types of vitamins, and that's not going to be really effective. But what I'll tell you from doing this for years and working with thousands of patients having ADHD, what I see as a commonality is definitely seeing B vitamins being deficient. And B vitamins are very critical for helping a lot of different modulation and the pathway of building with different neurotransmitters, such as things such as dopamine, serotonin, as well as norepinephrine. Some of the most vital things that do impact our ADHD brain. So guess what? If you're deficient in something like B vitamins, that's going to impact different neurotransmitters that you definitely will need. So the biggest one is definitely adding a B complex, especially with activated form of B vitamins, because I will also test all B vitamins, and I tend to see a lot of my patients and clients tend to be very deficient in these areas. Now, there's a more extensive list of different supplements that I find that can be really effective with ADHD, but also what things you should be doing as far as foods, nutrients, as well as figuring out what testing you need to do to actually figure out why do you have these imbalances with your ADHD. So I have a free ADHD health guide in the description below that you can check out and download right now. Now, number 5, I think this is definitely something more amongst adults that experience this, and it's not talked about enough. There's definitely an issue with people who have ADHD and they reach adulthood. Things kind of change a bit. You know, you might have like grown up where you're more hyperactive, but then when you reach adulthood, you reach this burnout state where you actually feel like you have low energy and you have this mental exhaustion. And this is so common and it's not addressed enough. And the reason this is happening, in my experience of running different tests, is because there is a depletion in cortisol. And cortisol has a lot to do with our energy and managing our stress, but also can impact our mental focus throughout the day. So what I usually will use to combat this is to help supporting the adrenals to increase those cortisol levels up. So a supplement that I typically will use a lot is adrenal desiccated. Now you got to be careful with this. Typically, I'll only will have people do it for about 3 months just to revitalize the adrenals, so the adrenals can finally produce the cortisol levels at a very healthy balance level on its own. But I will use something like adrenal desiccated to help improve that. And people will find not only their energy improve, but also their mental focus throughout the day and helping managing their stress. But in order to really find what are the best supplements for you specifically for your ADHD, you have to do further investigation. It's something that I do with all my patients and clients. That is why I'm able to find the best supplements that are going to actually work for my patients and clients, because I do testing first to understand really what the imbalances are for them. So if you really want to know how this works, of how you can actually investigate further of what would be the best supplements for you through testing, then watch this video next where I'll dive in deep, specifically explaining how that all works, how I utilize testing, and understanding what would be the best supplements for you. So watch this video next.